Hello and welcome. I'm bringing you this special commentary for Shadowline News. We turn our attention to a story that has shaken Kenya to its core, the tragic case of Boniface Kariuki, a 22-year-old mask vendor whose life was forever altered by a single police bullet during protests in Nairobi. The facts of this case are as stark as they are devastating. On June 17th, during anti-government demonstrations in Nairobi's central business district, Boniface Kariuki was doing what he did every day, selling face masks to make an honest living. According to reports, he had spent the entire day serving both members of the public and police officers, hoping to capitalize on the increased foot traffic from the protests. What happened next represents one of the most senseless acts of violence we have witnessed in recent times. A police officer shot Kariuki at close range in the head. The young man was not throwing stones, he was not leading chants, he was not confronting law enforcement. He was simply trying to earn a living, selling masks, ironically, the very protective equipment that has become a symbol of public health and safety. The human cost of this tragedy extends far beyond the initial shooting. Kariuki now lies in Kenyatta National Hospital, declared brain dead by medical professionals. His family received the devastating news that his brainstem has completely ceased functioning. The young man who once walked the streets of Nairobi, supporting himself and his family through honest work, is now sustained only by life support machines. But the cruelty of this situation extends beyond the medical tragedy. The financial burden on the Kariuki family has been crushing. Hospital bills have climbed to over 2 million Kenyan shillings, with some reports indicating the figure has reached 2.3 million shillings. This astronomical sum represents decades of earnings for a family of modest means. In a twist that speaks to the vulnerability of desperate families, Kariuki's father, Jonah Kariuki Nyambura, fell victim to heartless fraudsters who conned him out of 200 shillings. These scammers promised to help clear the medical bills through the Social Health Authority, preying on a father's desperation to save his son. The psychological trauma of watching your child fight for life, compounded by financial ruin and then criminal exploitation, paints a picture of systemic failures at multiple levels. The broader implications of this case cannot be ignored. This incident occurred during protests calling for accountability in law enforcement, specifically regarding the death of Albert Ojwang in police custody. The irony is profound. A demonstration against police brutality resulted in yet another case of alleged police brutality, creating a cycle of violence and mistrust that threatens the very fabric of civil society. From a policy perspective, this case raises fundamental questions about police training, rules of engagement, and accountability mechanisms. How does a police officer justify shooting an unarmed vendor in the head? What protocols were in place to prevent such an escalation? And perhaps most importantly, what systemic changes are needed to ensure that citizens can exercise their right to peaceful protest without fear of state violence? The arrest of the officer involved is a necessary first step, but it cannot undo the damage already done. Boniface Kariuki's promising young life hangs in the balance, sustained only by machines, while his family grapples with grief, financial ruin, and the harsh reality that justice may never fully restore what has been lost. This case also highlights the vulnerability of Kenya's informal economy workers. Mask vendors, street hawkers, and other informal workers often operate in the spaces where civil unrest occurs, not as participants but as individuals trying to make a living. They become collateral damage in conflicts they did not create and struggles they did not choose. The silence from government institutions regarding financial support for the family is particularly troubling. While investigations proceed and legal processes unfold, a family faces bankruptcy trying to keep their son alive. This abandonment by the state adds insult to injury and raises questions about the government's commitment to protecting its most vulnerable citizens. As we reflect on this tragedy, we must ask ourselves what kind of society we are building. Are we creating a nation where young entrepreneurs like Boniface Kariuki can pursue their dreams safely? Or are we perpetuating a system where the most vulnerable bear the greatest costs of our political and social tensions? The story of Boniface Kariuki is not just about one family's tragedy. It is a mirror reflecting our collective values, our institutions' failures, and our society's priorities. It challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, accountability, and the true cost of injustice. This has been a special commentary for Shadowline News. The case of Boniface Kariuki continues to develop, and we will continue to follow this story as it unfolds. The questions raised by this tragedy deserve answers, and the family deserves justice. Until then, we are reminded that behind every statistic, every news headline, every policy debate, there are real human lives hanging in the balance. Thank you for joining us. This is Shadowline News.